And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Sonja Grace, award-winning author and distinguished spiritual teacher. Today we're going to be talking about spirit traveling, mysteries of ancient sites around the world, and more. Sonja, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I've been looking forward to this podcast. And if you don't mind, Sonja, let's start with what is spirit traveling?
Well, spirit traveling is something that has happened to me in 43 years of working as a healer, teaching meditation, sort of being in the trenches. And what happens when I spirit travel is I go into a very deep meditation and my body starts to dissolve like little particles of sand, and it goes into everything in the room. And it's not until that point that my guides, who are high angelic beings, hold their hand out, and I take their hand and we go up and up and up and up and up. And then we start going back in time. We travel really in the night sky or up in the ethers, and it's cold. I feel the rain. I feel things, but it's not astral projection. A lot of people think, oh, she's doing astral projection. Not even close. I mean, I am gone, and I've got many spirit traveling experiences where I was gone for 5 hours, and I'd only planned on being gone for an hour. Just crazy time and space stuff that happens to me when this spirit traveling takes place.
Since you're saying that it's not astral projection, are you saying that you are having out-of-body experiences?
What I'm saying is when I time travel, my body dissolves, and it's like my soul body is what goes. And, no, my physical body isn't sitting there, dying or some weird thing. No, my body is in a deep state, an altered state, so that I can leave my body to go back in time.
So when you come back from these time travels, you must be completely and profoundly changed, right?
Big time. Big time. I mean, the first time it happened was about, 25, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, maybe somewhere around there. And I was at a cabin in the Wallowa Mountains with my husband, and it was beautiful. There was a river flowing and birds chirping. It was beautiful there. And there was this little bench, and I looked at him and I said, I just want to do a meditation. I'm only going to be in meditation for maybe 20 minutes, and then we'll make dinner. So he sat down on the deck, kind of keeping guard, and I went into meditation. And that happened. Like, my body dissolved and went into everything. My guides were standing there. I took their hands. They said, we want to show you something. And we went up, 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 up. We kept going up. I kept feeling this pressure of going up into space. And when we got to where we were, which I later learned was what they call the center of the universe, there were these beings were there, and I call these beings the Savrak. They're the ancient ant people. They're not talked about a lot. I'm adopted on the Hopi reservation. My husband's Hopi. It's like I'm very intertwined in Hopi culture, and they talk about the ant people there. I've encountered them there, but there they were, in the center of the universe. And I'm like, okay, wow, you guys are here. They said, yeah, we take care of this place. And there was this beautiful kind of milky white like air floating right in front of me. They said, we want you to step into that. And I looked at my guides because I was scared. I was like, first of all, my feet aren't standing on anything. And second of all, I'm in the center of the universe. What? So I stepped into this space, and it's like I went into this really intense state of bliss. Like my entire body just went, whoa, like I can't even describe it. It was so intense. And I was super happy there. And then all of a sudden, my guides were like, hey, it's time to go. I'm like, no, I don't want to go. It's time to go. So I came out of it, thanked the Savrock. They brought me back down, and it was pitch dark out. It was 3 hours later, and my dear husband was still sitting on the steps keeping vigil while I'd been gone. And that's how spirit traveling began for me, because I have, like I said, this is not anything I teach. This is nothing that has to do with anything except for the fact that I have a meditation practice that's been very dedicated, very intense. And this is something that happened to me for karmic reasons, for other reasons. Got to do it, got to go get the real history and bring it back.
Is Savrock the name of the ant beings that you were talking about?
That's what they told me, their name, that's what they call themselves, is the Savrock.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about it in my book, in both Spirit Traveler books.
A couple of my guests have commented that there are or were ant-like beings on this planet. Do you think that's true? And if so, are they still here?
Yeah, they're always here. They were here first. They're the ones that have saved humanity many times, building underground tunnels and helping us escape some disastrous thing with the earth. Yeah, they've been here since the beginning of time.
I think that there are some people out there that would think, how can beings that are like ants, reptilians, or mantis be more advanced than we are? What would you say to them?
I don't put the Savrock in the same category as mantis, reptilians, or alien type beings like that. I don't put them in the same category. I think they're benevolent beings. I think they look like ants. I think ants are here crawling around all over the place outside to remind us of who they are. I think when you go spraying ants or killing ants, that you're forgetting, who these beings are. And, like out at Hopi, we'll take a little bit of cornmeal and do a prayer and ask the ants to leave the house. It's not good for you to be in here. We need you to go. And we'll put that trail of cornmeal going out the door so the ants will leave. And they do. They leave.
That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And
There's a lot of respect, for all beings on Earth if we just see them for who they are.
In my opinion, the greatest mystery of them all is the pyramids of Egypt. What did you discover about them?
Well, I wrote about the Khafre pyramid in my first Spirit Traveler book, and in the second Spirit Traveler book, which is out now on Amazon, I wrote about the Great Pyramid, and it is amazing to me why the pyramid was built. And it wasn't built by people. And I'm so over it with Stonehenge and all these places. Oh, the people dragged the stones across. It's like, no, they did not. I'm sorry. Humanity right now, in my opinion, is so incredibly addicted. We're addicted to food, alcohol, texting, drugs, gaming. We're addicted. Okay. So you take that addiction and you put what is a human condition, the ego, in place with that. And you've got people just, like a false ego developing because there's no point of reference. We think we know it all. We think we've got the whole thing figured out. They dragged the stones, they built it brick by brick. And there's this ego that is like, you can't cross that line because people are so disconnected from the truth, from who they really are and where we really came from and all of that. So I'm going to say the Great Pyramids were built by a race of giants called Mu. And these giants built pyramids all along the Tropic of Cancer. They have influenced our planet for a long, long time. And they taught people the technology. Why was the pyramid built? Why were the 3 pyramids built? Because inside the pyramids are chambers. And in these chambers, in particularly in the Great Pyramid, is a sarcophagus. That chamber was used as a transport system. And so these rooms literally existed before the pyramid was built. The pyramid was put there to protect the chamber. I'm going to give you a really good example. The Temple of Kukulkan, when I spirit traveled back in time, had a pyramid inside of it, deep in the ground. And that pyramid that we see today is actually a secondary pyramid built over top of it. Okay, a lot of people don't know this. And when I physically went there, my husband and I had a guide, and I said to him, have you seen the pyramid that's inside the Temple of Kukulkan? And he looked at me and he goes, very few people know about that. Yes, I've seen it, but how do you know about it? And I whipped out my book and handed it to him and said, you need to read my book. And then I said, have you seen the cenote at the bottom? Why the pyramids were built? Why everything was built over this site? And he gasped and he said, nobody knows about that. And I said, well, I do. Read my book. So my point about this is I believe the pyramids were built in stages and that these transport systems were built first and that everything was built around them.
So you're saying that the Mu not only built the pyramids of Egypt, but also the pyramids in Mesoamerica and China.
Yes. Not all at the same time, but certainly within a certain time frame.
What can you tell us about Atlantis and Lemuria?
Well, in my spirit travels, I have seen Lemuria beginning, like this civilization, Lemuria, beginning, and it's much older than Atlantis, where Ireland and Europe and Greenland and Iceland and North America, all of those land masses were connected at one point. And so the people began in that area. In my first book, I have a chapter on the Rock of Cashel and also Skellig Michael. And Skellig Michael is off the west coast of Ireland. It's the remnants. It's the top of a mountain that existed during Lemuria. So the people migrated. They came across the landmass. They went across North America. They came down through China and eventually settled down in the area of Japan. There's all kinds of ruins in the ocean floor at the base of Japan. This is the remnants of Lemuria. So Atlantis began around 250,000 BC. Atlantis was, again, in my research, the landmass that existed between Africa and Europe. There was a whole landmass that filled in that area. And the remnants of that, of course, is the Canary Islands, Malta, some of those smaller islands that still exist. Egypt and all of northern Africa was a part of Atlantis. And Atlantis was an amazing, tropical, beautiful place in the middle of the Sahara Desert, really. I mean, there was a great deal of what was going on there in the Sahara Desert. And my in my new book, Spirit Traveler, uncovering more mysteries of ancient sites around the world, there was a temple there in Atlantis that held some very important things that were brought to the people. And I don't want to spoil it. If you read my book, you'll learn. But the temple was built as a great serpent, which takes me back to the Temple of Kukulkan. It takes me back to Norway and Norse mythology, Jormungandson, all of these myths and stories throughout history about the great serpent. And what is the connector of all of us to the entire universe? What connects us? Alien, human, animal, bug, whatever we are, it's water. Water connects us. And that's what the giants Mu were referred to in symbology, was they were referred to as water.
Are you saying that Atlantis was where now the Mediterranean Sea is, and perhaps it got buried with the Great Flood?
I think the landmass actually broke off and went down into the ocean. And I think the ocean currents took it all the way to Antarctica. And I think that's why so many things have been found in Antarctica that makes everybody scratch their heads and go, why is this here? Yeah.
What have you discovered that we have been lied about and are continued to be lied about in history?
Everything. Everything. I mean, history that we know that's in books that have been, written by monks and scholars of the past are all based on what the ruler of the time believed and wanted the people to believe. So again, in my first book, Spirit Traveler, I go to St. Winifred's well. And, St. Winifred is a very famous story in Catholicism. She had her head cut off. Her father stitched it back on. She became this, this incredible, she became this incredible woman of the people who served the church, and it was a miracle. That's not what happened. When I went back in time, she was in love with a man who was a pagan, and it was completely forbidden. And her father said, nope, you're not going to be with anybody. You're going to be with the church. Your uncle is a priest in the church. You're going to be a nun. And they went and hunted down her man, her love, and chopped his head off, put it on a spike, said to the people, this is how we feel about relationships with pagans. And she went into the church. So of course they're not going to record the story quite that way. They're going to make it more fantastic so that the people believe that, oh my God, it was a miracle and we're going to pray to St. Winifred. Yeah, it was a very special place. The waters that I experienced there at that well were magical. But I as a woman, I find the story to be unfortunate that that's what people have been led to believe. And I see that as a statement for all of history. I mean, up at Edinburgh, at the castle, in the moats, I mean, it's amazing how many women were killed placed in the moat with their thumbs and their toes tied together because they were accused of being heretics, witches. And we have that kind of history all over the planet. But, it's unfortunate.
What about the origins of humans? And what I mean by that is, did we evolve? Were we brought here from another planet? Or are we the result of some sort of genetic experiment with the ETs?
I believe that we were brought here about 2 million years ago. And I believe that we came from a planet as a species. We look like humans, we came from a planet that has the mathematical equation of zero. And if you understand what zero means, zero is in non-duality. Zero is completely neutral. And we were brought to a planet and a system that exists in duality so that we could help evolve the race, the human race in this environment. It's so much more complex than people understand, because part of the evolution of humans on Earth is for us to learn not only about karma and about the matrix, in that what we put out is what's literally being put back to us from the universe, but we're also here to evolve this dense physical form in a duality, an experience of testing everything's, it's good or bad, it's right or wrong, and we go outside of ourselves to get that information to come back to who we were when we came here, living in a non-dualistic environment and understanding that innate good, bad, right, wrong is inside of us. It's in our soul body. We get it. But we're so bamboozled by Earth and all the things that are here and karma. And oh my God, did you hear what they said? And wow, look at that. And I can't believe they did that. We're just like emotional time bombs just blowing up here, there, and everywhere because we're engaged in duality. And we think we have to go outside of ourselves to measure the experience and then bring it back within. And the whole evolutionary process of us being here and evolving is to come back to recognizing it is within our soul body that we can determine if something is good, bad, right, or wrong. And staying in the middle, staying in that place of neutrality, again, where we came from, is how we're going to evolve the human race. Glad I got that out.
Can you tell us a little bit about your guides and who they are?
Yeah, my guides are angels. They're high angelic beings. They've been with me through all my lifetimes. They're very they're very tied to me for, again, sort of my own karmic reasons, my own karma of things that I've gone through. They've guided me and they help me in all of the sessions that I do. They help me in my spirit travels. I mean, they're always there. I remember them. I have a memory from being two years old in a crib, and my guides being on both sides of the crib and rolling it across the floor and laughing hysterically because those cribs were heavy back then. And that thing flew across the floor and hit the door. And my mom comes through the door. What's going on in here? And she's looking at me like I did it. And I'm just laughing. And, they're great. They've been with me for all of my incarnations.
What is the most profound ancient site that you have spirit traveled to?
There's a lot of them, but the one that hit me the most, sort of in what I just explained to you about humanity, is going to the island of Malta and visiting Hagar Quim. And I wrote about this in my first Spirit Traveler book. The high priestesses who took care of that temple are very connected, and so is the temple to Atlantis. And they had in the temple one chamber. I mean, it was all about fertility. Women came there to give birth. women came there to work on the harvest. I mean, it was all about fertility. And there were two rooms in that temple. One represented all things that are good, and one represented all things that were bad. And the high priestess told me, we're in charge here in this temple of maintaining the balance within duality. And they had me step into both rooms. And that was, like I said, one of the most incredible, like wild experiences I've ever had. Because when I stepped into the temple of all things good, again, it was just this blissful, incredible, joyful, loving, amazing experience. And then I had to go across the hall and step into the temple of everything that was bad. And that was the scariest, darkest, most creepy feeling I've ever had. I came flying out of that room like I'm not staying in there. And I understood clear back then that they were aware of this duality that we live in, and that maintaining a balance is so important. And they actually had rooms for that balance on Earth, and I think about this a lot because humanity is very out of balance. And our being out of balance causes the Earth to go out of balance. Although, believe me, we don't have quite that much influence on her. She's very powerful. The Earth is a being, a goddess, I call her, living in a blue round body. I mean, who's to criticize somebody for the way their body looks? Hers is blue and round and has a lot of water. But all of the planets have beings, benevolent beings living in them. And she does everything to take care of us. I mean, she goes beyond the call of duty to try to maintain balance for us humans and all life on Earth. And, when we get out of balance and we're out of whack and we just, we're struggling right now because duality is literally splitting apart. And we're all super amped up. That's really good, or that's really bad. And we get really jacked up about, this duality splitting apart and splitting people apart, splitting the planet apart. God knows the Earth has, she's done a lot to hold us together during this. And I believe that she will have the last word. Because we are simply guests on this planet. We are hosted by this beautiful, benevolent being. And as guests, we need to remember that it's absolutely a privilege and an honor to be here.
Do you believe in reincarnation? And if so, why do we keep coming back over and over again?
Yeah, very much I believe in reincarnation. I think everybody's had hundreds of lifetimes. Many people have incarnated at the end of Atlantis between maybe 14,200 to 10,000 BC when this phase of humanity began. 10,000 BC, that's when we began this phase. We're coming to the end of a phase of humanity, which is why everybody's rushing to get their spiritual groove on, because they haven't done their homework for the last 5 lifetimes. So yeah, we've got tons of lifetimes. The only ones who are new, they're star seeds like we were, is the babies being born today. A lot of these babies are star seeds. They're coming in direct from other places in the cosmos, and they're coming here with very specific missions to herald the next phase of humanity. All of us have specific missions, but you have to understand your karma to understand what your mission is. For example, I'm going to go back to the ego. The ego will often jack us up so that we believe that we should be an astronaut. That's really what I need to do. I need to be an astronaut. But you know what? You have lifetimes of being a farmer. And in those lifetimes, you used to study the sky, and you knew all the constellations. You dreamed of going up into that sky. Does that mean you should become an astronaut? No, it doesn't mean you shouldn't try, but you must understand that those lifetime after lifetime of being a farmer has taught you something else, and that your greatest mission is to be connected to this earth, not to go back up into the sky. So people have to understand like where they come from and why, so that they can best navigate their life now. You know, when people call me and say, "What's my purpose?" I'm like, hands down, everybody's purpose is to love at the deepest level of your being. Because that, and bringing that energy that we all come from, divine love, into physical form is like, that's it. That's masterful. You know, God's energy comes through the top of your head, and the earth energy comes up through your feet and at your heart. There's this riot of activity of these two energies meeting because you're a vessel for that. And that's where we get music and art and all of this creativity that comes out of people. So that's hands down, that's the mission right there. That's the purpose.
Do you think it's possible that there is an end point or a graduation to reincarnation and we move on to something else?
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I do. I mean, I think we're all working lifetime after lifetime to resolve our karma. What is karma? Karma is unresolved emotional wounds from past lives. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. You're in the 1500s, Henry VIII is in charge, you're in London, you're accused of being a witch, a heretic. And you're taken to the square, and they're going to behead you. Your head is on the block. Did anybody in that lifetime come to you and say, "Excuse me, would you like to speak to a therapist and resolve this issue before you die?" No, nobody says that. You get your head lopped off and you die. What do you die with? Fear, shock, betrayal, abandonment, all of these pieces that are karma that then come with you. And then you've got now your next lifetime. You're in the 1600s. You're in France. And, you know, they're still beheading people. Oh, yep, you were found to be a resistor, somebody who is not okay with what's going on in government, and they title you, you're a heretic again. And there's the guillotine. You get your head lopped off. Same things experienced over and over and over. People get hung. People have neck accidents. These body problems that we have are reoccurring themes through our past lives. Somebody breaks a leg in the 1200s. They get not shot, they get an axe in the leg in the 1300s. They break a leg and die from it in the 1400s. It's like even your physical body experiences are a part of your karma. That puts a new light on things.
Yeah, it's fascinating because you seem to be giving us patterns of trauma over and over again.
That's right.
What's the best way to discover these patterns in order to release them?
Well, this is what I do all day long. This is my day job. I do this with people. I go back into past lives. I do deep processing work with people and help them uncover what the emotional wounds are and how they're traced back through their karma. And then I help them to clear them out, because I believe the body is a big closet. And we experience an emotional wound in childhood, and we're told, "Stop crying. You can't cry. That's not okay. You don't feel that." And guess what? We put it in the closet.
If we get back to your book, Spirit Traveler, have you ever encountered ETs during your travels?
In the unseen world, there's entities, aliens, demons, all kinds of smarmy, creepy things, as well as angels, demigods, benevolent beings. All of it exists in the unseen world. What we're dealing with right now is a lot of aliens are coming through to Earth because we're coming to the end of this phase of humanity. And that's when they come in hopes to influence humans, direct humans, take humans off planet so that they can get the planet themselves. So we're in a bit of a weird spot right now. And to back that up, where we come from on the Hopi Res, there's sightings, UFO sightings every night out there. I mean, there is like so much going on in these remote places on the planet with UFO sightings. It's amazing, really. And I've met a lot of alien beings. When I clear them from people, I do not interview them. I do not talk to them. I simply clear them out, because a lot of aliens have a hidden agenda, or not so hidden agenda, and they want to take over people's bodies. They want to influence you so that you'll do X, Y, and Z. There's all kinds of stuff agenda-wise that I don't agree with, because I see humans as infinite souls having a human experience. Why would we need a chip or some extra influence in our bodies? We just need to wake up and realize that we're infinite souls.
Are there any benevolent ETs out there?
A lot of times people refer the Pleiadians as ETs, but the Pleiadians are actually demigods, and they're very humble demigods. Demigods that really wanted to be known more were the Norse gods, Odin, Thor, Freya. Those guys were like, taking physical form, walking around, interacting with people, and they were totally okay with being known. But the Pleiadians are the ones that have slipped in, helped humanity, and slipped out. No fanfare, not wanting any fanfare.
What's the most profound alien encounter you've ever had?
I was teaching a workshop in Oregon. We were way out in the boonies. And my husband and I had brought our travel trailers so we could stay in that. And I told him it was the afternoon, we were on a break. We'd been in meditation for days, and I was like really out there. And I said, I'm going to go lie down, just take a little nap. And as I laid down, I felt my body going up, and my feet literally turned and went through the wall of the trailer. And I was standing on a metal grate, and excuse me, I felt a hand hold my hand, and I looked, and it was a very small white alien, small. And they led me up the ramp and onto what was a ship. And I'm like, I can't do this. I'm teaching a retreat. I can't go anywhere. What are you doing? We just want to show you something. And I'm like, oh, I'm not really down with this. No, it's okay. And they literally put me in a seat, strapped me in. Next thing I knew, we were up. We went up. And I'm looking around, and I'm seeing these little small white aliens, and I'm like, who are you? And they said, you can call us Newton. I said, Newton? Like the cookie? Like a fig Newton? Newton, what do you mean, Newton? And they said, well, the last time we came to Earth to impart information and knowledge, we visited Sir Isaac Newton. And we gave that to him. So you can call us Newton. It was like their way of just saying it's easy. And then we went up around the backside of the moon, and I'm looking out the window, and sure enough, there's this whole lit up space station on the backside of the moon. And I looked at them and I went, I knew it. I knew there was a space station back there. And we whipped around the other side, and like within seconds, we were back down to where we began. And they said, we've come here again to impart information to a scientist, and then we're gone, and we won't be back for quite some time. And anyways, I was back in the trailer. I was lying there with my eyes open going, oh my God. And the thing that was important to me about this was they were not interested in being here. They were not interested in influencing humans other than imparting some information to a scientist who probably made some miraculous discovery as a result to it. And they left the rest of us alone. And those are the good aliens to me.
Did they ever reveal any information to you about the moon itself? Like, is it actually something that's made of metal and covered in rocks, or is it a space station or anything like that?
Well, I think seeing the space station on the other side of the moon was pretty much the gist of what they wanted me to see. But as far as the moon being something other than the moon, no, they didn't talk about that with me. And my feeling about that is I think the moon has a tremendous pull, energy with the earth, and has been a part of this system since earth, since the beginning. I don't see it being anything other than the moon. I've never gotten that it's some space station that, people come in and out of. No.
How is understanding what happened in the past going to help humanity today?
I think that history's been directed and recorded by leaders and religious people and people who are in charge. And it has left us believing certain things and excluded us from other things. I mean, for example, let's look at UFOs and ETs and our government. What have we been left out of? What have they not told us? I mean, there's so much. So finding the truth, going back in time, being able to share that with people who read my books or follow me, I think it's important because we have so much that we've missed out on. And as we come to this end of this phase of humanity, that's part of the rush. And I mean rush, like hurry, we got to figure this out, because we're trying to get all the pieces put together spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically so that we can depart, and we're not coming back. Many of us will not come back to earth after this lifetime. But here's the thing to remember. This is the most important thing that I can share with you. We as a species are tethered to her, the goddess, the earth. She is where we will always go. When her body is done and she leaves this earth body and she goes somewhere else, we will go where she is. That is our number one relationship, is with her. Because, I have clients who say to me all day long, God, please tell me I'm not coming back here. I don't want to come back here. And I'm like, right, you're not actually, but we will all convene and come back together again when it's time, because it's about her. It's not about us. It's about her.
Did you ever travel to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey and find out what its purpose was for?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I wrote all about it in my new book. Yes, it was used. Well, it was a really remarkable temple, but at the end of Atlantis, there were a group of people who were taken to Göbekli Tepe, and they were taken underground underneath that temple. And that's where they stayed, and they survived all of the onslaught of what happened during the fall of Atlantis. But I write about it in depth in my book, and it's very interesting how these places exist, and we know so little about them. And then all of a sudden, being back in time, it all makes sense. It's like, wow, this is what it was used for. This is why this place holds a lot of energy.
Your book is called Spirit Traveler, Unlocking More Mysteries. What is the main takeaway someone should get from reading your new book?
I think the main takeaway is really, it's my Aquarian nature. It's like I have to see the overview of the universe. I can't just see one little speck here and one little speck here. So there's sort of this overview of benevolent beings, giants, the Tuthuladan, the various beings that I encounter in my spirit travels that have showed me why it was built, what happened, and expanding our minds beyond that this is what my ego tells me I am, and this is the only thing I'm going to prescribe to because I live in this matrix of belief systems and I can't go beyond the box. I can't step out of that box. And we're kind of in some treacherous water right now because people are really dialed into belief systems and into their stance of being right or wrong. And I say, read my book and let your mind go, expand your mind, because it's not going to hurt anything. It's research. It's a way of maybe viewing history from a different perspective.
Does this matrix that you speak of only contain belief systems, or would you consider that our entire 3D reality is a simulation?
I think it's our entire 3D reality. I believe that, we have our body, we have our infinite soul body inside our body. We've got our auric field around us, which exists of 7 layers. And then we've got karma, emotional wounds, belief systems, all of these things, if you imagine it like a great web in your field, and you get triggered. Somebody says, "Oh, I'm so mad at you," and suddenly, you're triggered. You're that 3-year-old and mom's getting mad at you, and boom, that energy comes out of your body, goes right through your matrix out into the universe. I just taught a workshop called The Matrix, and it's really about teaching people how to navigate and work on redirecting their energy. We're so good about taking care of our physical bodies. We take collagen, we exercise, we take our vitamins, we do all these things, but we're not good at taking care of our energetic body, our chakras, our energy field. Where is our emotional content going? Why are we, forever blasting our partner with anger because we don't feel heard or seen or understood? So the premise of my teaching and my work is a grounding meditation that I teach once a month. I have the Meditation Peace Project. People can sign up for it on my website. It's teaching people not only how to ground your energy, but how to stay in the center. And in the center of your soul body is your inner peace. It's how to expand that and to literally be in that neutral place of what is actually peace. And peace has a higher vibration than even love. So as my dad would say, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Sonja,
Typical Norwegian humor.
Sonja, after watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
I have a contact form on my website. Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything else that you're working on that you want people to know about?
Oh my gosh, I have so many projects. On my website is a documentary short that my husband and I made, and it's available to watch, called Spirit Traveler. And we compare Hopi culture and Celtic culture, and with the premise of circles, portals, and ETs. So it's a very interesting film. I've got a meditation retreat that I'm doing in January of 2025 in Scotland. That's up on my website, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be in meditation for 4 days, and then we're going to Orkney Island to explore some of the oldest stone circles that exist, and Scarborough, and I'll be taking people into some ceremony.
Before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Sure. I would like to say that the main fiber of our soul body is hope, that we're never far away from hope. We never lose touch with hope. It's our emotional wounds and our egos that separate us from hope. And if there's one thing I want everybody in the world to carry into the future is hope, because we're strong, we're capable, we have hundreds of lifetimes behind us, giving us a lot of information and a lot of strength to move forward. And why we need to have hope is all of these kids, the next 7 generations, need our hope in order to proceed and to carry on when we pass the baton to them for the next phase of humanity. So don't lose your hope, because it is the actual nourishment, it's the vibe that we all need to carry on for the kids.
Sonja, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.